And we are live. So, uh, this was an odd selection of sorts, and it came at your recommendation Mr. Bones. And so we got a chance to screen it, and I found it interesting. Let's put it that way. I know in many cases it's considered one of the greatest films of all time. Yeah, it's different. I guess it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. So this was the one and only directed movie by the great Charles Laughton.
Yeah.
Who is famous for so many things. Probably his rendition of Quasimodo and The Hunchback of Notre Dame is considered the best.
Yeah, I think he's next to Lon Chaney, probably the best Quasimodo.
Go ahead.
He was also in Witness for the Prosecution.
Yes.
He was in
The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Was he in The Island of Dr. Moreau? Okay.
Yeah, not the original, not the one with Burt Lancaster.
He was in Spartacus. He was in he did a lot of theater was his first love, though. He did a lot of theatrical productions, and he was also married to Elsa Lanchester, who played the Bride of Frankenstein. He had a long career. And it's funny because, yes, he directed this movie, and it's the only one he directed, as you said, because he had a bad experience.
Yeah, it was a great burden to him.
Yeah, it didn't do well originally in the theaters, and critically it didn't do well, and that kind of just turned him off from and he never directed any other movies. He directed plenty of plays and things like that. He did a lot of radio stuff, and I mean, his acting cred, I think, goes back to the 20s, to like 1928 or thereabouts. So he was a very respected guy. But yeah, this was his only shot at directing a film. And it's one of those movies that over time, I think, was reevaluated, and people like it now for various reasons. And yes, it's on many lists of the greatest films of all time. And I mean, you can argue that whether you think it is or not, it's fine. But yeah, it's one of those movies that's had a reevaluation.
There are a lot of movies that we've covered on this show that originally have not done well, and we either box office flops and have come back over the decades for reevaluation. I don't know that there are too many that. I mean, we've done some real blockbusters. We did Jaws, which is probably considered one of the greatest movies of all time. We haven't tackled the supersized blockbusters, I think, with the exception of that. And
we did Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Okay. But I mean, critically acclaimed. I'm not talking about just raking it in the box office.
Yeah. Okay.
And Jurassic Park is a great movie. Don't misunderstand.
Oh yeah.
It still holds up very much. But in terms of its critical reception, there haven't been too many. Jaws, these sorts of things. We did Browning's Dracula, that sort of thing. But I think this might be the first Criterion collection movie that we finished. It's very much, a bit of a Grimm's fairy tale. Little Red Riding Hood. The Big Bad Wolf. A lot of these sorts of parallels. It's a smart movie. It's a smart movie. It's not horrific in any. It's horrific in a different kind of way. You've got horror, you've got fragility, you've got this, sort of Southern Gothic, theme going on there. Basically, you've just got this man who is posing as he is. I guess he's posing as a reverend or something.
Yeah, he's not really. Yeah,
but in actuality, he's a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that this movie, a movie about a serial killer, has spawned so many sort of tributes or other movies down the road where you've seen that clearly they've ripped off these sorts of scenes. From this movie. It's so borrowed. I remember originally thinking, and I couldn't really find an overlay for it, but the original scene where he just shows up outside the farm.
That's a great house. Scene.
It's beautifully shot. You can see that with the lighting. It's absolutely gorgeous shots. But there's a scene actually from Poltergeist 2 with that creepy reverend.
That guy, the Holy Temple. That guy,
he walks up along the fence, and he's got that same hat on, and he's dressed all in black. And I remember watching this, and I didn't say anything to you at the time. I'm like, "Holy shit, that's that's what they use. That this is where they're getting Poltergeist 2 from him. That creepy ass reverend." And I was trying to edit some video together in time for the show because I got out of work a little late and I had to run some errands, but I couldn't get around to it in time. Just so many parallels. This idea with the love and hate tattoos on his hands, and that story that he's telling, so many things. Came back and Do the Right Thing. The Radio Raheem character. I mean, clearly, 40 years later, people are 30, 40 years later, people are, just ripping off so much of, what Lofton was directing. I don't think he lived long enough to see, what a tribute, and how high, it ended up being held in regard.
Yeah, he definitely, it's definitely an influential movie. And, what I love about this movie is, like you were showing, that shot of him at the fence. There's a lot, I wrote it down in the notes where all these night scenes that are lit like this, there's a lot of stuff to do with shadows, and there's a lot of like pitch black, really this sense of foreboding in it, and he's this creature that can't enter unless he's invited, like he hangs out outside he's outside the fence, he's outside the windows, he's singing. That this creepy vibe we get from him. And I read a little bit about that character. Harry Powell was based on a real serial killer, a guy named Harry Powers. And it was in the Depression South, like this movie, 1932, I think, was the real incident. This guy killed like 5 people. He went after widows for their money. And this is what Harry Powell does, is that he has a really strange, like he says, he has this agreement with God, this really strange, twisted kind of like religion, this belief, and he goes around and he kills these widows. I mean, the movie opens pretty, like, it catches you off guard with those kids playing hide and seek, and then the one kid finds the body in the cellar, finds the woman's dead body in the cellar, and you're like, whoa. And then all of a sudden you see him driving in this car and he's having a conversation with God. I mean, this guy's and he just comes off as a lunatic, He
is a lunatic. He's clearly, and this term is completely overused today, but he's an actual misogynist. He hates women. He hates them. And he hates them because of and he especially hates women who use any aspect of their sexuality.
So
one of the first scenes that you see him in after, he's driving, he's at a burlesque show. And, unlike the other men who are there to kind of enjoy the show, and you can see everybody's looking kind of pervy there.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody comes out looking, unless you're in some sort of comedy, nobody comes out looking too great in a burlesque show. But you can see the look on his face. He's just angry and
just
he's
that
disgusted.
Contempt. Yeah.
And he just, you can tell he's going to try to hurt that girl that's up on stage.
Because,
and then all of a sudden what ends up happening, and for me, this was the reveal right away. He's confronted by a police officer at the show, and the police officer asks him, is that your car out there or something along those lines? And he ends up getting arrested and serving 30 days. So
because it's a stolen car. Yeah.
Right. You're starting out on one hand where you can tell he's already killed somebody. Mm-hmm. But when he's confronted by someone, who actually is not defenseless.
Yeah.
He folds like a lawn chair.
Well, and I said this, he's similar in that aspect to Stuntman Mike in Death Proof. Yeah, Kurt Russell. He's, the minute he gets hurt or is something defenseless, he screams like a coward. And this is what he does. But that scene,
he was actually, I'd give Stuntman Mike a little more credit. It wasn't until he was in that final accident where it's like
that's true.
And both of his legs are broken. He's just completely.
Yeah.
But this was somebody who exclusively preyed on women, and in this particular case, small children.
Yeah, and I just real quick, that scene in the burlesque show, what I liked too was in that hand that has the hate tattoo. Yeah. He started to he had to put it in his pocket because he was feeling like it's almost like that hand, and we can talk about that in a little while with Shelley Winters. That hand is and he explains what the one hand does and the other hand does. And it's it's almost like it possesses him or something like that, and he can't control it or something, it's really interesting. But with the children, that's this is another instance of I guess we should say that the children are their dad is Peter Graves, who robbed a bank because, as we know, in the Depression, people didn't have money and they were desperate.
Right.
And he hides. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he hides the money in his daughter's doll, Pearl's doll. Yeah, and he shares the cell with Harry Pell, and even Peter Graves. He just punches him in the face. The first thing he does is punch Harry Pell in the face.
Because what he's trying to do. I mean, he ends up in jail. Robert Mitchum ends up in jail with Peter Graves.
Yeah.
And so he understands that Peter Graves is in jail for robbing a bank, and that they've never found the money. So he spends all of his time trying to convince Peter Graves to tell him where the money is.
Yeah.
But he sees right through him.
Exactly.
Any actual adult sees right through him. And so, I think that's what the surprise was for me, because I remember people saying, that this is such a terrifying movie, this, that, and the other. But to me, and he was surely evil. But like I said before, when we were watching it, he's kind of like this low-level predator.
Yeah. Oh, he
can only prey on the very weakest of the weak.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that and you mentioned the adults can see through him, but some of these naive backwoods people can't. Yeah. I mean, case in point, Shelley Winters' character, the mother of the children. And, she's so quick to take him on as a suitor. That's what happened back then. I mean, who knows? Those kids could have been a shotgun wedding. You never know. But he ingratiates himself with these ignorant bumpkins who don't know any better.
And I was saying when we were watching it, they really are just empty vessels.
They are, And
I mean, Shelley Winters has this thing going on where she's already sort of broken, because I mean, clearly she's attracted to a guy who was robbing banks.
Yeah.
So she's attracted to that dark sort of
that bad boy. Yeah,
that bad boy sort of thing. Hold on a second. Hey, what's happening, man? The harsh truth is in here again. What's happening, brother? Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked to you in a
What's
while.
up?
It's good to have you stop in on the show. What's happening, Frank?
Okay.
We're talking here, Night of the Hunter. Yeah, I mean, she's clearly attracted to this, this bad boy kind of thing. And she can't really see through it. And you've got these old spinsters, in the town that are encouraging her like instantly to remarry this guy. It's just, she's kind of like this. I don't know. Like I said, she's like an empty vessel, like any particular breeze sort of, and it moves any particular breeze moves any of these people.
And my only quibble is that we don't get to know her at all. We don't, she's not alive long enough. She's got, like, for Shelley Winters to get top billing with Robert Mitchum, she's barely in it. I mean, she's in it for a little bit, but she doesn't really have a lot of lines. And she's kind of just like very shy and demure. And we only kind of get a sense of, like you said, with her liking the Bad Boys and stuff, but we don't really know anything about her. She's almost like she's sheltered. What's that?
I don't think there's much to tell.
Yeah,
I think that's it. I think this is one of those people who's been born in this town, raised in this town, has never left this town.
Yeah.
And now, she's just, now she's a widow.
Yeah,
so she's back on her heels. She's got 2 small children.
And
then comes this idiot.
I think she's sheltered a lot. Yeah, and that woman who's pushy, who keeps encouraging it. Yeah.
Yeah, so she ends up almost instantly remarrying after her husband is hung. For robbing the bank, and Robert Mitchum he's managed to put together where they live, so he's only there to try to steal that money.
Yeah, find out where it is. Yeah,
he's so predatory. I mean, he's gone God knows how far, just to show up at this home to marry this woman. Just so he can get at this money.
Yeah, and
I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a completely different level of criminal than Peter Graves, who stole money. I mean, Peter Graves stole money.
He
stole money.
He actually straight up robbed a bank. Yeah,
he straight up robbed the bank. This guy is going to like prey on this family, almost like a vampire. It's like a parasite.
He's a leech.
He's a vampire, I think.
Yeah.
And he's going to, just bully and cajole and torment these people, consciously and deliberately, just so he can figure out where this money is.
Yeah.
And he really is an evil bastard.
He is. But the cool thing is, though, is that the son sees right through him.
Yeah.
The boy, again, like you were saying before with these child actors in these movies, these kids were good. I like these 2 kids. And the son, he really, was his name John, I think. He saw right through Pal's BS. He saw through his bullshit. But they're terrified of this guy. Yeah. You could tell the children. I think that's where the terrifying part comes into it.
That's where the big bad wolf sort of comes in.
Yeah. Because he's always there. He always finds them. And it's the craziest thing. Like when they go on that huge trek downriver in the boat, he still finds them. Like he kills some dude and takes his horse, or he steals a horse, and he still finds him.
The trick of it is that the children are essentially outcast.
Yeah, they're pariahs.
They're pariahs. They're pariahs because of their dad, but then their mother's kind of lost.
Yeah,
she's being bossed around by all the people in the town. That that one little bossy lady, and then she marries Robert Mitchum. So they don't have any place. And they're sort of one. It very much is like a Grimm's fairy tale. They just keep searching, and because children need somebody to look after them. Children need someone to protect them, and they don't have anybody.
Yeah, and I like that, and with the mother, excuse me, the kind of naive, submissive woman that she is. That, pardon me, that scene after they get married, where he just verbally.
Yeah.
He just verbally thrashes her
Yeah.
and just makes her feel awful. I mean, he just verbally abuses her.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he says to her, and about her, that she should be ashamed of her body, but again, that's his misogyny coming through.
Yeah.
That's he's almost like letting his guard down there, like, I'm not going to sleep with you and blah blah blah. It's a horrible scene for her, because you just see her reaction.
She doesn't, and in that moment, she understands who it is that she's married.
Yeah.
In that moment, she understands exactly who he is, but there's nothing she can do.
No,
this isn't the type of world where a woman can just, like today, I mean,
obviously she can tell him to go F himself and leave.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a bully.
Yeah.
He pushes all of and her way of coping with it is simply to submit to this.
Yeah, she just kind of shuts down and just submits. Yeah. And of course, the scene where he kills her is just where she's almost in like a trance when she's in the bed. When she's laying there in bed.
It's very much a spider fly kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or like how they say like a snake can kind of hypnotize you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that kind of thing, and she's so empty and devoid of any sort of, coping skills or, anything, that it's just, she has no chance.
Yeah, and when he's got his hand up there and he's ready to kill her, and just the again, that imagery, the stark blackness, it's very expressionistic. It's like a silent film almost, the way it was filmed there. And where he's almost like he pauses there and he looks at his hand, and there's no words or anything like that. He looks at his left hand that says hate, and then he just turns around and stabs her. I mean,
even that's, it's too late when she's coming into the house and she hears him threaten the little girl.
Yeah.
He's gonna tear the little girl's like 5.
Yeah, I know.
He's like threatening to tear a little girl's arm off if she doesn't tell him where the money is.
Yeah.
And she just walks in the house and pretends that she doesn't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's kind of not about Shelley Winters. I mean,
no, it's not.
I'm sure she got billing because she's Shelley Winters.
Yeah.
But I mean, she plays no important role whatsoever.
No.
The kids play a much more, because I think largely it is about him and these 2 children.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That he's just kind of, outside of arm's reach with.
Mm-hmm. And the most haunting scene for me is the scene of her underwater in the car when he dumps her body in the car. He like wraps her body up and dumps it in the lake with the car. Just the imagery of her like kind of floating, her hair floating in the water, and you just it's quiet, and
it's
just
very beautiful. Actually, it's quite ironic.
That image of her is such a haunting scene. Yeah. And then the uncle, what's his name, doesn't even do anything about it.
No. Well, that's the whole point. I mean, that's the whole point of everything. There's nobody there for these kids.
Yeah.
The mother's not there. The town's not there. The one man who says he is going to be there is just a drunk.
Yeah.
He's not there. We were talking about this when we were covering Silver Bullet, and about the role of Gary Busey. And how he sort of transforms from this drunk who's got like wild turkey on his nightstand, like a 750 a wild turkey on his nightstand, as he sort of evolves into who he needs to be as the crisis sort of dictates.
Yeah.
And so he eventually kind of becomes this adult, but there's nobody like that. And so he defends Corey Haim and the other girl that are in there, as best he can. In this situation, it really is, these kids are just wandering. They're just, they're lost in the woods. They're literally they're the babes in the woods, and they're being hunted by this sort of, slimy, wolf. If that makes any sense. And there's nobody there to protect them. And it really, I can see where it almost sort of does have a religious overtone, because it's almost like God is watching out for them because nobody else is.
Yeah, I think so. I think there is an undertone there, even if that wasn't intentional.
Well,
I mean, I could see that.
The movie starts off right away where, you know, the old lady is talking about, it's giving the Bible study lesson.
Yeah, Miss Cooper.
About a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, and
you're going to know them by their fruits.
Yeah,
you know, and by what they produce.
That was Lillian Gish.
Yeah, Lillian Gish. That's it. Yeah.
Who was a silent film star, and she actually she lived to the ripe old age of 99. She died in 1993. But she she's kind of she's kind of like the kid's guardian angel. You know, when they finally, like, you know, in that scene, like they end up on that farm and they hide in the barn, and then he still tracks them down, and then they run into, I forget, how do they run into her?
They roll into the city. They roll into her little neck of the woods, like the Ten Commandments,
right.
like Moses in that boat.
That's right.
They just keep floating down the river until they're just exhausted.
That's
and
right.
The boat just lands. You know, because there really is almost like a little bit of providence in what goes on here. There's such, you know, because Robert Mitchum is constantly talking religion.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, she's talking religion. You know, Lillian Gish, and you know, it really, I really feel that there's an overtone of providence in this.
Yeah, I think so. And she takes in orphans. You know, Mrs. Cooper's a lady who takes in these orphan children. And
I love this shot. It's like they're ducklings.
Yeah.
They're like, there's one mama duck and like all these little ducklings that just follow her along. You know, and she's kind of stern. You know, she's not, you know, like, you know, grinning like some idiot all the time. You know, she runs a tight ship.
But she can also see through Pal's BS.
She sees right through him. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's got, and it's great. She's got that Winchester just there. She's sitting there with the Winchester. Yeah. And that shot of him. Yeah. When that girl Ruby comes up with the candle and it lights up, that is a fantastic scene. Yeah. I mean, just visually, you know.
And the fact that just a little bit of light just completely drowns him out.
Yeah. And,
you know, once the light appears, he's no longer part of the equation.
Yeah. And Ruby, that character Ruby, she also represents a young woman who is almost enthralled to him because he manages to track them down after all that. This guy is so relentless. He is so greedy and hell-bent on this money that and remember that one part when he corners them in the boat and he almost has them, and like the current gets him and he screams because it's almost like his mind is breaking. He's just like, ah! And then, when he corners him in the basement, all these scenes of where he's just like, he's so consumed with his own evil and his own greed. He follows these kids everywhere. And he finally catches up to them in that city, and he almost snags Ruby. He almost snags her, I think.
If you think about the behavior of a predator, usually what they'll do is they'll hunt the lame.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't go after the strongest.
No.
You know, they go after the weak. They go after the young. They go after, you know, the old, someone with a bad leg, you know.
Yeah.
And that, you know, it's the slowest one or the weakest one or the
exactly.
That's who ends up getting the chomp. And so he plays that role very well.
Yeah.
You know, and he's preying on young girls. You know, he's probably 16. You know, he's playing on these children, probably 10 and 5.
Yeah.
You know, some naive woman, you know, back on her heels from just losing her husband.
Yeah.
You know, so he has to look for weak people.
Yeah. And I wrote this down too, that, you know, Ruby is almost like Willa, but she has the protection of Mrs. Cooper, where Willa didn't have these protective people. She had all these morons encouraging her.
She had enablers, facilitators.
Yeah, because this girl Ruby probably is only a few years younger than Willa. I mean, you know, Shelley Winters is probably in her 20s at the time. I don't know, but she looked pretty young. So and so that's the thing. Like, And Mitchum doesn't realize, Harry Pell, he doesn't realize that he's met his match in Mrs.
Right.
Cooper.
Yeah,
you know,
it doesn't occur to him, and I think especially it doesn't occur to him because she's a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
And his viewpoint of women is so low, that it never occurs to him that a woman could be his match, or even more than a match for him.
I think that
it really doesn't take much. We see several examples with the police officer, with the judge, when he's in jail with Peter Graves. When he's on the road with the rest of those guys that are just
those miners or whoever.
And they're like, he's doing his religious thing, like they're not even listening to him. They're just one guy just spits like when he's talking
right in the fire,
and he's just like, shut up, So I mean, he can only do his thing on these on these weaklings.
Yeah, and I think it's poetic justice, and obviously they did it on purpose, that Mrs. Cooper is the one who is his downfall, is the one who stops him, because she shoots him when he gets in. The minute he steps in that house, she shoots him, and then he screams like a.
Well, she's got a shotgun. She's got a pump action shotgun.
Is that a shotgun? I thought it was a Winchester.
No. She's got a shotgun, so she
shoots him in the arm or something.
Probably some bird shot right in the shoulder.
Yeah,
and anybody would stand. Yeah, anybody would. But I mean, she's kind of like she's like a play on the grandmother character with the big bad wolf.
Yeah, exactly.
Except this time, grandma's not getting eaten up.
No, grandma's not playing.
She's gonna put a round in your ass.
Yeah, exactly. So and then he runs into the barn, and then and at that point he's done. Yeah, he's powerless, and the police get him.
Yeah,
That's it. But I thought it was interesting in the courtroom scene when the son would not identify him. We talked about that a little bit, where they were like, is this the man, who did all that? And he wouldn't point to him or anything. He just stayed silent, and he was upset when Powell got arrested.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's clearly reliving what happens with his father.
The
position that Robert Mitchum ends up in is the same that the Peter Graves ended up in.
Yeah.
So, he's very traumatized. He's watched his father die. This boy's only about 10. He's watched his father die. He's watched his, his mother get killed. He's had his life threatened by this man, all probably in the course of a few months.
Oh, yeah.
He's had to run for his life and try to protect his sister.
Now, did they ever, I'm trying to think, I don't know if it was ever revealed that they found out that he killed the mother.
I'm sure he knew that boy was really intuitive.
Yeah.
The girl was naive because she was just a little more than a baby.
Yeah, she's a little girl. Yeah. She's making paper dolls out of the money. But
so he's had to do a lot more. It's that kind of thing takes time.
Yeah.
And I think eventually what we see, and this is kind of what surprised me. Like I said, in the end, it kind of becomes a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Where he's finally, these children have finally found shelter.
Yeah.
And they find safety.
They find stability.
Yeah, and they find love.
Yeah, exactly. And a way better life than they ever had.
Yeah.
Because this woman and all the people, all the other kids there, they don't treat them like pariahs, and they don't pry. They don't, the woman doesn't ask their business and stuff, Mrs. Cooper.
And
she doesn't.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, she doesn't care about that,
It's not an empty kind of Christianity either.
No, it's not.
With just platitudes and then actions that make absolutely no sense.
Mm-hmm.
She's proven through her actions that she loves these children.
Yeah.
That they can trust her.
Mm-hmm.
And that, they're going to be safe with her.
Yeah.
There's no question.
No. And I like too that she's not scared of Mitchum at all. She's not the old woman with the gun scared. she's just sitting there like a trooper, just
Yeah.
total badass old woman, just sitting there, not scared at all. She's protecting her flock, like, yeah.
She's the mama. She's the mama duck.
Yep, or the mama bear. Don't come between a mama bear and her cubs. I mean, that's the thing. And yeah. Oh yeah, I see. It's a shotgun there. Okay, I can see now. Yeah, and that's the thing though. We don't see what happens to Mitchum, but we know he does get hanged.
He gets hung.
Yeah, and because the hangman says, "Oh, this one will be a pleasure" or whatever. Yeah. And so but the look on his face, I noticed it was a quick thing when they're hauling him into the police car after the trial. The look on his face was just like a scared, like mongrel dog or something. He was just like he was done.
And that was kind of what surprised me about this movie. Like, I kept hearing about, how awful this guy was, and he was awful, just not in the way that I thought.
No, no.
This wasn't like Hannibal Lecter.
No.
Like, some Superman or something like
that.
No,
he's not.
He was actually quite feeble.
Yeah.
In reality, he couldn't nail down 2 kids.
Well, and that's the thing. You think about it, though.
It's quite inept.
A lot of those serial killers, though, when you think about it, ended up being very feeble and inept. When it came down to it, when they got caught, that was it. And
I mean, it's not like they go out like some superhero or something.
No,
like that. Yeah.
No. I mean, these people are disgusting. They're predators, and but they're the scumbags. They're leeches like him. He was a leech, and but yeah, it's and Mitchum was. I think his performance was just fantastic. Well, everybody was great in it, but he really captured that just complete. Just lunatic, serial killer. And he wasn't off the wall lunatic either. That's what made him dangerous too. He
wasn't like talking to the, to the trees or something like that. Yeah. He was just conniving and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was an opportunist. He was just after that money.
Yeah. And like when he said him and God have like this understanding and all this stuff, it's like, man, I mean, he really, and that's the ironic thing is he's the guy who pretends to be a reverend who's clearly not a religious person by any means whatsoever.
Well, there's that great scene where he and, Lillian Gish are both singing the song. Finally, he's singing that song and then she just joins right in.
Yeah.
She knows the same song, so, I mean, she just meets him like head on.
And that's kind of like she's like taking his power away from him, kind of doing that.
There's nothing that he has, to get in their heads. Like he can't hang outside and just sing that song.
Yeah, because that's what
under their skin.
Yeah, because that's what he would do to creep them out, is singing that song. And when they heard him on the road, when they were in the barn and he's singing it on the road and they see him in the distance on the horse. Yeah. And again, back to the visuals of the brilliant, absolutely brilliant visuals of this movie. He was on a white horse and, in the Bible, the man on the pale horse is death. But yeah, it's definitely, obviously not a horror movie.
It's not a supernatural movie, but I think it is a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, to an
extent, it's just not supernatural, in the sense that it's like a thriller.
Yeah, it's definitely a thriller. Yeah.
I want to say real quick, right now, this movie is playing on Tubi. So if you're looking for a streaming option out there and you catch this in the replay, or if you're live right now. You can catch this on Tubi, and it's on Pluto TV. I don't have Pluto TV, but there are several free. Okay, I have Tubi, so I do have Tubi. So you can just pull up. These are great channels. They have thousands of titles on there. Not all of them are the best, but they've got things like this.
Yeah, and I mean, Mitchum was pretty. I mean, he was good at playing these kind of parts because then later he did Cape Fear.
Yeah.
And he was just terrifying in that too.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's one we can cover sometime.
We'll have to get around to it. I find that, as I said, with few exceptions, as I get older, what people do is far more scary than the supernatural.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just the world we're living in right now. So,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So this movie is available on Tubi. You can catch it anytime. It is considered one of the greatest movies ever made. It's beautifully shot. And the acting is top notch.
And
it's really something.
And it's a shame that Lawton.
Hold on, Frank's saying that Pluto TV is wildly underrated. Okay, all right. I'll have to subscribe to it. I'll have to download it.
No, I was just going to say I think it's a shame that Lawton never directed anything else.
He was kind of a troubled guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, to some degree. I think he just didn't. He acted. Obviously, he liked acting in movies. He was in a lot of movies. But maybe just the directing thing just didn't hit him like he thought it would. And because this movie didn't do well, I think that just kind of took the steam out of him, And
somebody said something. I saw an interview with Guillermo del Toro, and I think it's part of Criterion, which you have. I don't know if you saw the interview. Guillermo del Toro's on there for like 5 minutes, and he's talking about Lofton. And he said Lofton was kind of a pariah in his own life. Like he struggled with a lot of things. He was married to Elsa Lanchester, but he was also bisexual.
Yeah, they never had kids, and
and they said he struggled with that a great deal, and like Del Toro felt that really translated over into this story, and he could portray so well of people who were just kind of lost in the woods with things,
outcasts. He
was just he was kind of like this self-imposed outcast, or maybe back then, it wasn't acceptable at all, and it would have ruined his career or something like that. So, this one thing was just his, that was his contribution, and he just wasn't able to come back and do more, especially if initially it didn't do well.
Yeah. But he, he wasn't very old when he passed away. I think he was like 63.
63 back then was.
Yeah. But I mean, Elsa Lanchester made it to 84. I mean, she died in the 80s, I think in 86 or something like that. But they were married for a long till he died, basically. But I remember reading where she said that they didn't have kids because he was gay. But apparently, from what I understand, like you were saying, he is bisexual, and she had a couple abortions or something like that, and it was, so who knows what was going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, but sounds like a tumultuous marriage.
Yeah, but they stayed together, and interesting guy. Lawton was a good actor, and but like I said,
they said he was kind of an outcast.
Yeah.
And like every generation, he felt that there was one. He said Hitchcock came along next.
Yeah.
Of this rotund sort of man who was not the most beautiful man in Hollywood. Lofton came along. He said, he goes, now I feel to some extent, that's me.
Yeah.
I've been, he goes, I've been an outcast since I've been 33.
I think so.
Of things,
Yeah, you could argue that Kubrick was one. A lot of directors, these
geniuses, really.
Yeah, these iconoclastic directors, and again, for a guy, for The Night of the Hunter, which was Lawton's one and done, it stood the test of time, and it's we're
talking about it now. It's been 66 years.
Yeah,
or 61 years, or whatever, 45 and 21, so 66 years. We're still talking about.
Yeah. And it certainly didn't hurt Mitchum's career. I mean,
But this goes back to what I've said all along when we started talking about Polanski a long time ago. Fucked up people make the best art. They really do. They have that hole in them, in their spirits, or in their soul or whatever, and they just constantly have to feed it. And some people can feed it with creativity and things like that, and then some people feed it with. You get like the Chris Farley types that are just, vacuums for substances, and they end up dying. But fucked up people make the best art. They do. You don't want your accountant, creating your playlist.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want the guy. You don't want your ear, nose, and throat guy. You're doing your you know what I'm talking about. You don't want him directing, your favorite movie. These people, by and large, are what make up great art. They just are, from cutting off your ear, all the way to this.
And this movie, you can tell, is very, and I noticed, I didn't write this down, but I noticed this as we were watching it. It definitely reflects Lawton's theater background, because a lot of those scenes are very theatrically, I said it was very expressionistic. Yeah. A lot of those scenes looked almost like the set of a play, or if you, it reminded me of, if you watch The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, it's very much like that weird kind of backgrounds and very dark kind of stuff. It's very theatrical in its setting, and with the lighting and things like that. It was very theatrical. But again, because he had that extensive background, and I think he did that a lot. He never gave up theater. He did film, but he never gave up theater either. He always did that. And I think he did a little TV here and there, but he mostly was film and theater.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's probably as good a place as any to start to wrap this up, unless you had something else you wanted to get into. I think next week we're covering, I think, what may be the first serial killer movie.
Yeah.
Which is M. And I'm looking forward to that. You and I are going to screen that on Friday.
With Peter Lorre. Peter Lorre's first film, I believe, or his breakthrough film, directed by Fritz Lang. If you know, he did the brilliant early science fiction silent film Metropolis.
I remember you mentioned that. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Fritz Lang. I'm looking forward to that one.
So looking forward to that. Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow with a favorite of mine, Starship Troopers. We're gonna have a good time with that tomorrow night. Me, Eric, and Marty. We're gonna get down to some serious business. I'm going to, as soon as this is over, I'm going to go walk the dog, and then I'm going to pop that in and watch it for tomorrow. And definitely looking forward to that. The fucking Roughnecks and getting down with on Clandathu. That's going to be fucking great. Thank you, brother, for stopping by. I always appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
We got to connect up soon. I'll give you a buzz, and we got to get it going ourselves. We got to do a show. It's going
cool.
We'll have a good time. All right, I think that's it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, like I said, with Starship Troopers. And for the rest of you, have a good night. Tomorrow, happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. Yep. Please remember that it's not just a day off. Take some time to think about, what it is that tomorrow really means. All right, everybody. Good night, and God bless.